At the beginning of this year, I began a mentorship with Boles. He's an author, adventurer, trip leader, self-directed unschooling person, and he does a bunch of other stuff too. I completed my application for the mentorship at 10:39 on New Year's Eve, the deadline, and we had our first call on January 3rd of this year. This mentorship has played out through calls, emails, messages, and a small stint at a summer camp in Oregon. We've called pretty much monthly discussing what's been going on in my life with my projects, what I've been up to, and what Blake has been up to. It's been cool having that monthly thing that happens. We've discussed pretty much everything I've done this year in creativity and work. Blake has been one of the first people to hear about pretty much all of my projects and ideas and things I'm up to. This year started with a big crowdfunding campaign for my documentary series Learning and Liberation. I then had logistics and emails to send for a year of travel and filmmaking. I finished a mini documentary project I'd been working on for a year and a half prior, and I worked a job at Whole Foods for 9 months. Then I set out to travel with my partner to make our documentary series. During this time, I went to Not School Camp, where Blake and I met and had our first and only in-person meeting. I've been traveling for the past few months since then, and now I'm back in Pennsylvania for the holidays. Throughout the time of travel, it was nice to have that Blake monthly meeting. I feel like it was a good way to sort of ground what I was working on and have someone to check in with. It was cool. I feel like Blake has been sort of an accountability buddy for some projects. Sometimes mentioning something on a call to Blake made it feel more official or proper. I'd think, oh, I'm going to check in with Blake next month and I should get this done. At the start of this year, Genevieve and I needed to raise a lot of money for our project, Learning and Liberation. Blake has done multiple crowdfunding campaigns and his advice was really useful. Over 2 or 3 calls we went over the logistics of crowdfunding and he looked over the campaign. It was very, very cool. I feel like having someone who's done a sort of odd thing, crowdfunding a large amount of money, is immensely helpful when you're doing that thing. And we raised $18,000, something that felt very difficult, but ended up being very doable. It's also of great value, I think, to have people in your life as an unschooler who are not your parents. Honestly, I feel like I didn't always have a lot of adults to talk to who are not my parents, and well, it's fine having your parents. It's very helpful to have an outside force, an outside adult who you can talk to about this kind of stuff. I feel like having more outside adults, which has changed even more in the past year since I met Blake, has been very, very helpful. I feel like sometimes you need that outsider perspective. Blake travels all the time, quite literally. He full-time travels. He's always traveling. He's always somewhere different. I feel like every time we would call, he would be in Berlin or Argentina or Connecticut. He's never in the same place. It's an odd thing getting used to traveling for a longer period. I mean, I've never traveled for longer than a week or two, and traveling for 5 months was a big adjustment. It's another instance where having someone who has done the same niche thing that you're about to do is very valuable. I feel like there's a lot of advice and knowledge that comes from doing it, and is good to talk about. We talked a lot about how to keep up energy while traveling and how to stay consistent and sometimes have a little routine. We talked about being a good house guest when you're crashing on floors, something me and Genevieve did a lot in the first half of this trip. We also talked about how to stay feeling good while you just don't have a home and you're on the road, which can be difficult. In the first half of the year, we also worked on my YouTube channel, something that's been an ongoing project that I was feeling a little bit burnt out on and over. I feel like I was kind of ready to fully abandon it, but Blake had some solid advice, and I ended up keeping up doing some updates and little videos, and it's been quite fun. Blake really recommended that I have something that I do that is not my work, traveling and the documentary right now. I did try to do this. I got back into coding for a while, and I picked up a few books to read that I've read part of the way through. And I think it's very good advice, but I don't know if I've quite gotten it down yet. I still find myself working on the documentary most of the time, but it's a very solid idea. I think mentorship as a young person is extremely important and cool, and I'm very glad this happened. Anyways, I assume you already know about Blake Boles, but if you don't, you should check out his website and the stuff he does. It's very cool. Okay, goodbye.